I am pleased to introduce Rotary District Governor Dean McHugh as our speaker today. Dean is a charter member and past president of the Holman Area Rotary Club. He initially joined Rotary to help give others the experience he received as a foreign exchange student. Dean helps coordinate his club's clean water projects in Peru and has made Rotary contacts throughout the world to learn about and cooperatively promote clean water and sanitation. Dean believes all of Rotary's avenues of service are important and has also been active in his club's community service projects, vocational activities, and membership initiatives. He has achieved Paul Harris recognition, both through financial contributions and through being recognized for service by his club. After college, an MBA program, and his first professional job as a bank examiner, Dean is now president of McHugh Excavating and Plumbing, where he has been blessed to work alongside his father for almost 25 years. Dean hopes to show by example that all job classifications are important and relevant in Rotary. He believes every Rotarian has a set of skills which, combined with passion and commitment, can be translated into successful Rotary projects to improve our community and our world. We look forward to your presentation, Dean, and we have made a contribution to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund as a way to say thank you for speaking to us. As we welcome Dean to the podium, I just want to remind everyone that if there's time for questions, we will have circulating microphones for that. So please welcome District Governor Dean McHugh to the podium.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. It's great to visit the largest club in our district. I'm not from the smallest club, but from one of the smaller clubs. My club is Holman, Wisconsin. We are currently 38 members. So there are a lot of clubs in our district about that size, but it's great to come and visit with you here in Madison. One of the great things about the job of district governor, as I see Rob and Mary, who have both done it recently, is that you get to go around to all 63 clubs in our district. And you get to meet most of the 2,900 Rotarians that are in our district, and to see that in every club there are great things going on. You would expect in a club of 500 people there are lots of good things going on here in Madison, downtown Rotary, and there are. But there are great things going on in Stoughton, in Mount Horeb, in Prairie du Chien, in Beaver Dam, wherever I go. All of these clubs are doing great things in the name of Rotary, and this year's theme for Rotary that our President John Jerem has set is Rotary Serving Humanity. That's the banner I brought along to set up here in the podium during the talk, and it's also the pin that you'll find on your table. I set one out for every one of you. I hope if you'd like to wear that pin this year to remind yourself and others about what we do in Rotary. The great thing about John's theme, in my opinion, is it's so all-encompassing of what we do. We do things like youth exchange. We do things like the mentoring program I heard about that this club did. We do water projects. We do polio eradication. We even do things as seemingly small as highway cleanups. But in all of those things, we as Rotarians are serving humanity. So please keep that in mind throughout the year. Take that pin if you would like, and wear that proudly as a Rotarian. I decided in this talk this year that I will give 63 times, not to have a PowerPoint, because going to 63 different locations, the probability of something going wrong at some point is pretty high. Plus, I don't think you should have on a screen what you're about to tell people. If they can just read what you're going to say, you don't need to be there. You could just send it to them in an email. I also decided that I wanted to tell 3 stories that were powerful to me personally about Rotary, to hopefully help illustrate to you some points about why I think Rotary is such a great thing. I was a charter member of my club. We chartered in 2007, so we're not quite 10 years old. I told you about the size of our club. Interestingly, I was asked to join Rotary twice in the 1990s, or asked to come with someone to lunch, right? But I didn't go because I didn't know what Rotary was, and I didn't know what Rotary did. And I was afraid I was getting hooked into something, and I didn't know what it was. Our time is valuable, and we need to see a value proposition in anything we're going to give our time to. These folks didn't bother to give me the complete story about Rotary, so I didn't know what you all as Rotarians did, so I politely didn't show up. Had those folks known this next story of mine, and they knew well that Rotary did this thing, they would know how Holman Rotary got me to join and become a charter member. See, I was a foreign exchange student while I was in college. So you know that wasn't a Rotary program because we do it with high school kids. I had been taking Spanish for about 18 months at UW La Crosse. Actually met Gary's wife in one of those classes, so I know her a little bit from then. But they presented to me the opportunity to become an exchange student. Of course, the orientation there wasn't quite as extensive as we in Rotary give our exchange students. They figure you're in college, you're an adult, so there was a 2-hour meeting one Wednesday night, and off to Bogota, Colombia I went for 7 months. It was a great program. Not only did I come back speaking fluent Spanish, which was my goal, but I have a second family now. And I have a love for another country that I knew very little about before I went. And I have an understanding of the bigger world around me that is what we give these kids when we send them out. You see, our American students are ambassadors of our country when they go to Japan, Brazil, Germany, wherever they go. And those kids from those countries are ambassadors of their country coming in here and learning about us. So there's an exchange of ideas, and there's hopefully some flow there so that people aren't always just believing what they read in the news or see on the news about the horrible governments or the bad people, because you see, people are people wherever you go, and there may be a system of government we don't agree with, or there may be a value system we may not agree with, but what I learned very quickly in Bogota was these people were like me. I lived in a family with 3 children. This family cared about their children. They worried about their job. They worried about their economy. They wanted to give back to the community. People in other countries are a lot like us, and that's the experience that we give in Rotary Youth Exchange. I started out helping provide that experience because when Holman Rotary brought me in, found out I had done that, they thought, well, here's the guy that can go sell this at the local high school. So I did that for a few years, and over the last 10 years, we've had between 15 and 20 exchange students out of our small club, counting both inbound and outbound. And 2 years ago, I finally was able to be the host dad. So Nami Kojima from Japan stayed with my family. I finally completed that circle and felt I gave the rest of it back to Nami. Shortly after being in Korea for international with Mary and Michelle and others in the room here, I was able to visit Nami, and she's a first-year university student. I was able to visit her in her home country, share that experience, and I can tell you what anybody that's been involved in youth exchange can tell you is that that year changes the lives forever of these kids. So it's that idea exchange, it's that bringing the world closer together, but also making a responsible adult out of a person that leaves as a kid on that journey. The second story I have has to do with international projects and the power of the Rotary Foundation. I told you my club was only 38 people. We were only 27 people when we chartered. And our club president at that time thought we needed to have a signature project. We already had a Lions in our town. We already had some other service clubs. He thought that Rotary, as a new club in town, needed to have something that people knew them for. You can't really have a fundraiser unless you are telling people what you're raising money for. So Adam Fleece and I and a couple others in our club found some folks on the internet in Lima, Peru, and a project going on, and we raised $7,000 that first year. We're patting ourselves all on the back, this little club of under 30 people raising $7,000. But what we found out is that through the power of the Rotary Foundation and the matching that can occur at the district level and then at the international level, that we were going to be able to do a $25,000 project. In Holman, Wisconsin, 9,000 people in the whole town. We did. We went to Lima, Peru. We provided 115 biosand water filters and gave clean water to the first time to over 1,000 people. Our club got energized by that, and we carried that forward. We've made 3 trips to Lima, Peru now. We have done 5 water projects. We've spent over $150,000 in Lima, of which only 30,000 has been raised by our club because of this matching. It's powerful to go and see what a club can do. But it's even more powerful to know that we have at our disposal this Rotary Foundation that can help magnify our projects and help even a small club in a small town make a big impact on another part of the world. Our own project has now provided, we're estimating that 40 to 50,000 people have gotten clean water because of our project, because not only was it the 5 phases we did, in Rotary we copy the good ideas. So there are clubs in Seattle, out on the East Coast near Connecticut, a couple in Canada, and even one as far away as Italy that have copied that same project, where they partnered with a club in Lima, Peru, and did a similar project in the same area. So there's been close to 5,000 filters now in that area of Lima, Peru. Now I have a question for you that I'm going to ask. I promised Michelle I would ask this question. By raise of hands, how many people in this room have brought at least one guest to a Madison Rotary meeting in the last 12 months? Okay, that's more than I normally see, but I'm going to tell you why it's not quite enough. As Past District Governor Rob correctly pointed out to me, and something that I share with every club, on average, every club in North America will lose 10% of its members in a given year. It's not because your club's bad, it's just because things happen to people. Jobs change, people move, positions get cut back, employers don't pay for Rotary anymore. There's a lot of different things that could happen. So in a club this size, you need 50 new members just so Michelle can break even this year. That's a big task. But my challenge to you is going to be, don't rely just on your membership committee. Don't rely just on the talks that you just had, which was great, coming up with the people to reach out to. Every person in this club, take it upon yourself to bring just one guest in the next 12 months, because if you do it, that's 500 guests. And I'm telling you, you don't have a membership problem if you have 500 guests in a year. So please take that into consideration. And that leads into my last story, which is a membership story. And some of you have heard this. I apologize if you have. Some of you may know Scott Ryan. Scott's a good friend of mine. I've known Scott for over 40 years. I'm not that much older than that, a little bit. Scott and I went to grade school together, we went to college together, and our businesses do business together and have for over 20 years. Scott is a great person. He is the kind of person you would want to have in Rotary. And Scott's dad was even a Rotarian. So you would have thought this would have been an easy sell. But when I started telling Scott about our club in Holman and about the things we did, I had trouble convincing him because Scott honestly thought he didn't have in him what it took to be a Rotarian. So Scott holds the record at Holman Rotary. He had 8 free breakfasts because we give free meals as many times as you want to come. But I finally convinced Scott that there's a place for everybody in Rotary, that everybody has a passion, that everybody has some sort of skill to lend. So Scott did join Holman Rotary, and Scott went on the second of our trips to Peru. And if you've ever heard the phrase of when somebody joined Rotary versus when they became a Rotarian, Scott became a Rotarian on that trip. Because we were there to visit the water project, Scott's daughters had sent along some hair clips to give to some of the girls in the village. And Scott had never been abroad anywhere, didn't have a big international focus. As he reached down to give these girls these hair clips, they reached up to hug him. And Scott realized that it wasn't for the hair clips, and it really wasn't even necessarily for the clean water, though I'm sure they appreciated that, but it was for the fact that somebody from a long ways away that didn't even speak their language cared enough to help. Scott wept that day, and I saw that. I saw my friend's Rotary moment. The reason I tell that story is to tell you what happened after that, because Scott became president of the Holman Rotary. He almost immediately after coming back became our youth exchange officer and still is today. Scott helped with the Interact Club in Holman that had already started, but he helped start 4 other Interact clubs in the La Crosse area and is now the district Interact chair. So I'm proud of what my friend has done, but I'm even more proud that I gave Scott the gift of Rotary that's changed his life and touched so many other lives. So when you're thinking about reaching out to people in Rotary, for Rotary, please don't think just about the 50 people we need. That is important. But think of the gift that you could be giving to a friend or a neighbor or a coworker to have Rotary touch their lives the way that it's touched your life. Each year, we have a district conference, and since I'm from Holmen, just north of La Crosse, it'll be in La Crosse. I brought a banner over there, probably hard to see in this size room, but there are also save the date cards on your table. I would invite you and welcome you to come to La Crosse. I'm a little biased because I grew up there and have lived there most of my life, but I do think it's a great convention city because we have the Civic Center and the hotel right on the Mississippi River, great park to walk through, bars, restaurants, etc. Within a 2.5 to 3 block walk, you could not get to every one of those establishments within a week's period, but they're there for our pleasure. And in addition to the great speakers that you normally have at district conferences and the fellowship of Rotarians from other clubs and the learning, because I truly believe the power of the district conference is when you sit at a table at breakfast with somebody from the Eau Claire Rotary Club and they tell you a story about something that's going on in their club, or you tell them a story about your club, and through that exchange of ideas, something new and powerful happens in those clubs. But in addition to that, we are going to take advantage of all that La Crosse has to offer for entertainment. So on the nights, rather than have an act come in and play to a full room, and sometimes people leave, go to bed early, and we fret that we paid for this band and no one's here now. We're going to take advantage of La Crosse by interest group. So if you're a person that likes live music, there will be a captain taking people out to a venue or two that has some live music playing in La Crosse that night. If you like to just sit and quietly have a craft beer, there's a craft beer bar, the Bodega, 2 blocks away from La Crosse Center. If all you want is an old-fashioned ice cream sundae, the Pearl is actually kitty corner right across the street from La Crosse Center. And we have a historian from La Crosse, her name is Kelly, that works at the public library that tells a story in vintage costume about the history of downtown La Crosse and takes people around. So those are all the kinds of things you can look forward to for entertainment if you come to the district conference in La Crosse. So please take the save the date card. If you are going to do it, I would encourage you to get a hotel room early because we do have a big block of rooms, but it is also graduation weekend in La Crosse on Sunday. So if you wait till a month before when we've had to give up our block of rooms, you might have to pay significantly more. But right now we have a lot of rooms blocked out and they're significantly cheaper than the going rate for rooms in La Crosse. The other item I wanted to mention is the international convention that will be in Atlanta this year. I mentioned several of you folks that were there in Korea this year. We experienced a little bit of a language barrier. I was a little naive because I speak Spanish, so I've traveled a lot, and I never have had a language problem because if I'm in South America or Central America, or if I'm in the States or England or Canada, no language problem. In Korea, there's a little bit of a language problem for me, but if you go to Atlanta, well, there's a little bit of a language problem. But what I'm serious about is when you go to an international convention, there are going to be 40,000 Rotarians, some from almost every one of the 200 countries and geographical areas represented by Rotary. And that exchange of ideas I was talking about that you can experience at a district conference just explodes on the international stage. And the level of speakers that we have. We had the Secretary General of the United Nations speak to us in Korea. That's the caliber of speakers that you hear. So if you're not doing anything from June 10th to 14th, I would highly encourage you to pencil in Atlanta and experience a Rotary International Convention. To me, when you do something for somebody else that can never repay you, that is a very, very powerful and gratifying feeling. But when you do that shoulder to shoulder, and arm in arm with your friends, that's what we do in Rotary. So I leave you with that. May Rotary friends and Rotary ways continue to help you serve.
Thanks, Dean.
Hi, Paul.
I want to give you a platform for the Atlantic Convention. I've been fortunate enough to go a couple times. What are some of the moments that made it really special for you in your international conventions, and why should people go?
There are a couple highlights I remember from going to Korea. One of them is sitting in a room with almost 20,000 people. The attendance was so big that we couldn't even have opening session with everybody in the same room. They split it in half. Another thing is, in one of the breakouts, I sat next to a woman from Nigeria who told me how 52 of their club's members of 56 were female. Not something I expected to hear. The guy on the other side of me, who was from a neighboring country, asked if he could join, but she said, I ran into some of the people, this was totally by chance, I didn't know they would be there. I ran into some of the people, in fact, the person who was the district governor in Lima, Peru, the very first time I went there. I ran into him. So Rotary is a small world, and you would go to Atlanta and yeah, there's 40,000 people, and you're probably not going to know about 39,900 of them. But you are going to run into other people from our district, and if you've done any kind of cooperative projects or been involved in things like, obviously Paul's going to see a lot of people because he's spoken at different things like this. But just the wide array of people and the ideas and the things that are going on, and then to hear some of the big picture of Rotary, and it wowed me to sit there and see the caliber of some of the speakers that, hey, we in Rotary and what we do in Rotary with primarily polio eradication, but also in wiping out hunger and giving clean water, et cetera, gives us such credibility in the world that we can get these type of people to come speak to us. It's pretty powerful. So. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean, for your stories and for your service. This meeting is adjourned.